gone to another country? Anybody? People, Elaine, Ron. Oh, good number. Can you think of a time when you were in another country? Well, first, where do people go? Where'd you go?
Various European countries.
European countries.
Europe and Canada.
Europe and Canada.
John's going to India on Thursday.
Is that your first time to go there, or you've been there before? First time. So that's way outside of the comfort zone, probably, right? Yeah. Totally different culture. Nicaragua. She's patting you there, Larry. Libya. Wow. Oh, I saw Ed. You had your hand raised, right?
Croatia, all over the Mediterranean.
All over the Mediterranean. Who else? Anybody else? Behind me, Alicia. Italy, yes, Italia. I remember that. Nancy.
Japan, Taiwan.
Japan, Taiwan.
A couple times.
Where a couple times?
Belgium.
Belgium. Very cool. So when you go to another country, you're kind of out of your comfort zone automatically, right? Everything is different. It's a different culture. Oftentimes people are speaking a different language, and you're trying to kind of find your way. So for those of you who have been outside of the country, can you think of a time, can you remember a time when you were outside the country when you were completely uncomfortable and totally out of your depths? Julie raises her hand. Yes, Julie.
Being in the passenger seat on the wrong side of the car while Stephen is driving on the left side of the road.
So you were in a country where they drive on the other side of the road.
And so many times.
And you were not trusting your driver, your devoted husband's feet. It was just different. You felt out of your depths. He was okay.
No, I was not okay. Being in the
I was
driver's
not
seat,
okay.
not at all.
Stories here. You lived to tell the tale. It wasn't an
Barely,
adventure.
barely.
Right? Absolutely. Who else can remember a story when you're completely out of your depths? Anybody else? Can you think of one? I had to think a little bit. Ed.
The underground in London.
The underground in London.
Yeah, you're packed in like sardines.
You're packed in like sardines and everybody's very close together.
Yeah, and they don't talk to Americans.
They don't talk to Americans.
They pretty much don't talk to themselves.
So you're really, yes, so this is another thing in Europe.
You know,
There's a very different self-bubble in Europe. Your bubble is not like, it's here.
Yeah.
In America, your bubble's like, wait, and like if you bump into somebody, you're like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
But in Europe, nobody apologizes. You just keep going. And if you apologize, they're like, what's wrong with you? Just go, just keep walking. Tasha.
You can experience that here in America on the New York subway at rush hour.
And then there you go. So some places in America it's different, but yes.
It's so packed you can't get on the train, you have to wait till
So outside of your comfort zone, absolutely. Anybody else have a story? Elaine?
Okay.
Yeah,
I
okay.
was 18 and I was Eurorailing with a friend. And
You were what railing?
taking trains. It's
Okay.
called something else maybe. Well, anyway, you get a pass for a month and you can visit hostels usually.
Yeah,
But when we
okay.
got to France, the Paris actually, the hostel was unisex and everybody together was in one big room. So we didn't go there. We got a cheap little hotel, and the cheap little hotel was very scary. And you shared a bathroom with everybody on the floor, and there was only a sink in the room. And we swear we had a peeping Tom, and we just couldn't wait to get out of there.
So your personal space was seriously invaded
We
in
were
this hotel
too
room.
young to like really pay attention to every the details when we got into there.
Yeah, so you were feeling very uncomfortable in this hotel room,
Yeah.
where you were sharing a bathroom, you thought somebody was spying
Oh
on you.
yeah, pretty sure.
That's not comfortable, no, yeah. I can think of when I visited Germany. I lived in Germany for 4 months when I was in college. There's a couple different instances that came to mind. One was when I had to buy a cell phone, and this was when cell phones were brand new. So I had really only owned one cell phone at this point, and I'd had it for maybe 5 years at that point. So I'd never bought a cell phone by myself. And here I was in another country where everybody didn't speak my language, and I spoke some German, but most of the words that I knew weren't really helpful for buying a cell phone. So thankfully I had somebody come along with me who helped me set up my cell phone, and it was a different kind of cell phone than what I have in the United States. It's a pay-as-you-go. So I had to learn that as well. And then I had to go back and pick it up by myself. I can't tell you how many times I rehearsed what I needed to say to get the cell phone so that I would have it and I wouldn't embarrass myself in front of these people in the mall. That was one instance. Another one was towards the end of my stay there. You had these passes because you were a university student to go on what was called the Straßenbahn, which is like a trolley that goes through town. Nobody has a car. Everybody takes the Straßenbahn. But you have to have your pass or you have to pay for a pass. Since you were a student, you didn't need to pay. Well, at the end of my stay, I had to hand in my pass. It was still good because the semester was still going on, even though classes were over. But I had to hand it in because I was leaving. So I went on the Straßenbahn. I thought, surely it won't matter, because unless a controller comes on board, nobody knows whether you have a pass or not. So I go on the bus, the trolley, to go buy some gifts for my family on my way home. And we're halfway there, and who walks on? 2 controllers. And one of my friends had given me this technique. She's like, if you see controllers come on and you don't have your pass, go out the other door. Well, they came in both doors. I was like, all right, I can't get out of this. And so then they come along and they're asking everybody, do you have your pass? Can I see your pass? In German, right? And they come to me and they say, do you have your pass? And I just stand there and I'm like, oh. And then he says, do you speak German? And I was like, yes. Yes, I speak German. I know what you're saying. No, I don't have my pass. So they gave me a fine for like €80. I was like, that's a lot of money. Thankfully, because my pass was still good, even though I didn't have it with me, I was able to go and get the fine forgiven. But it was very uncomfortable being in a foreign country, knowing I'd broken the rules, and here are these people in authority asking me, do you have your pass? No, I don't. This happens, right? When you're in a different place, you're trying to figure out what are the rules, right? So you can fit in and not make too much of a ripple. But you're also trying to figure out how to express yourself so you can still be who you are in this different environment. Sometimes those 2 different things that you're trying to balance, fitting in and still being yourself, you just really can't do both. So maybe not everybody here has been to a foreign country, but I bet just about everybody here has visited a family of somebody who was important to you. Say a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and you were meeting their parents for the first time, or even just a good friend, and you were meeting their family for the first time. And probably, since this person is important to you, Ron's already laughing.
I'm laughing at that.
Probably since this person's important to you, you've heard about their family, right? So you know some stories and you know a little bit about each of the people in the family. And also probably the person who you know, boyfriend, girlfriend, friend, has like given you some details, right? Don't say this in front of my parents. Don't talk about politics with my dad. Or if my mom gives you food, try and eat it. It will make her really like you. That kind of stuff, right? Don't pet the cat. She's not friendly. So that you can fit in, right? But at the same time, sometimes things don't go in a very smooth fashion, right? You sit down at the table, trying your best to fit in, and then Dad starts talking about politics. Now you have to make a decision. Do you set aside the fact that you disagree and just listen? Or do you try and politely state your opinion in a way that's not going to really upset Dad, right? Sometimes it's just too important, right? You feel like you have to say, because this is who you are. And so you share, and hopefully it doesn't get to be too ugly. But it probably will be uncomfortable, right? But you're not going to like jump across the table and strangle Dad, right? No. So Jesus is in a circumstance today where he's in a place that's outside of his home country. He's in a Samaritan village. And Samaritans, while they shared a lot of things in common with the Jews, they were a people of a different culture, different traditions, a different religion. And so Jesus is outside of his comfort zone. And he sends his disciples ahead of him, right? And they are preparing the way for Jesus to come into the village and share his story, share his message. And this Samaritan village, for whatever reason, they're like, we don't want to hear. We don't want to hear from your Jesus. Get out. What do the disciples, how do they react? What's the reaction? James and John. Newcomb! Jump across the table. Get down! Right? How dare they insult you like this, Jesus? And Jesus' reaction, what's Jesus say? We don't actually hear his words. But when James and John react this way, does he say, yeah, good idea? No, right? He rebukes them. What's that mean?
Reprimand.
He tells them off. That's right. Yeah. It's like, what are you guys talking about? No, we're not doing that. Let's go to another village. So why, right? Why does Jesus make this choice? When you're at your friend, boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance, their house, right? You're trying your best to be on your best behavior because not only are you hoping that you're going to fit into this family, right? Potentially, but you also know that you represent your family, right? And that everything that you do reflects on your own family. Well, it's the same for Jesus. Jesus is God's Son. And Jesus has gone out of his way as he's spreading his message to say that God cares and loves the world and the people that he created. It's hardly going to reflect that message if Jesus incinerates a village who doesn't receive him. I mean, they didn't attack Jesus. They just said, please be on your way. We don't want to hear from you. Right? It can be hard when things get uncomfortable, when we're in these situations where we're already outside of our zone, to keep our wits about us and remember, we too, just like Jesus, represent a God who is loving and caring. And how can our actions reflect that? Right? How can we be the bigger person, so to speak? Maybe it involves leaving the situation. Maybe it involves setting aside our different opinion and just choosing to listen. Maybe it involves politely trying to have a conversation, and then if that seems to go nowhere, agree to disagree. Right? We don't see a lot of this modeled in our leaders today, but we see it modeled in Jesus. We see it modeled in Jesus today. And we're called to follow that model in our own actions. So when we're out there in the world, whether we're guests at a function like the Richland Township Day, or maybe we're knocking on doors like we did last summer to ask folks if they would donate to the food pantry, or maybe you're not doing anything affiliated with St. John's, you're visiting somebody else's house for the first time, or maybe you're going to a different cultural event and you're learning about another culture, or maybe you're even visiting another house of worship, a different church, or even a house of worship of a different faith. We experience these situations throughout our life where we go kind of a little bit out of our comfort zone and we're venturing out into a new space. And when we're in that new space, we should remember that we represent a God who loves and cares for the world. A God who has modeled that towards us in our lives and who we represent as we go out into these places. So let us reflect that love as we venture out, as we go outside of our comfort zone, as we figure the balance between fitting in and expressing who we are. Amen.